Good morning, students. How are you all? Hope you are fine and safe by God's grace. Children, today we are going to see a new topic. The topic title is Status of Women in India through the ages. What is the topic, children? Status of women in India through the ages. So the question of women only today we are going to learn. Okay, then here human society is constantly changing from within and outside the country. So you know very well, human society means both male and female is included. Okay, so it's constantly changing from within the country and outside the country. Okay, then here the women constitutes half of the population in the country. So not only male, women. Okay, not only male, that is female. It's always called women. They are occupying half of the population in our country. Okay, so both male and female only called full population, but here women constitutes half of the population. Okay, then women position was not uniform in all the periods. What is period? Ancient period, medieval period and modern period. Is it so? So these are the three periods. So in the three periods only, the women position was not uniform. But in ancient period, the women occupied equal rights like that of men. Okay, so that's what there is a women position was not uniform in all the periods. That position of women differed with regional variation. What is regional? Places. Okay, all the states only called it regional variation. So the women's status was not uniform in all the periods. It is different with regional variation. The position of women was, there is a different. Okay, so this is what today we are going to learn. Okay, so students, here in the ancient period, where in India, particularly in the early Vedic period, in the ancient period, especially in India, particularly during early Vedic period, the women enjoyed equal rights. The top men who enjoy equal rights, the women in whose period? Early Vedic period. Okay, but in the later Vedic period, their position became very worst. Whose position? Women position. Which period? The later period. Okay, their position became very worst. Why? Due to foreign invasion. Due to foreign invasion. Students, next, during British period, what happened for the position of women? Here some of the main leaders, they struggled a lot. They fought for the betterment of women. They fought for the upliftment of women. Who are the leaders? Here, Rajaram Mohan Rai. Here he is a social reformer. Rajaram Mohan Rai became the social reformer. He also fought for the betterment of women. Then Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Okay, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, Keshav, then Ishwar Sandhya Vidyasagar, then Pandita Ramabai, Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, okay, Muthulakshmi Ammayar, EBR and Dr. Dharmambal. These are the main leaders. They fought for the women's upliftment. Students, we discussed that few leaders who fought for the upliftment of women. Among them, Rajaram Mohan Rai efforts led to the abolition of Sati, which took place in the year 1829. Then, Vidyasagar, he did the battle for the improvement of condition of widows, which led to the passing of Widows Remarriage Act in the year 1856. Then, women played an important role in India for freedom struggle also. Then, racial changes took place among the status of women. And in India, last few decades have witnessed the all-round development of women, now making their presence felt in every walks of life. Now, we have three periods about the position of women. First one is ancient period, medieval period and British period. In the ancient period, what happened? There was evidence shows the worship of Mother Goddess. Hence, the adoration for the mother is evident during that period. During the Rig Veda period, it is believed that the position of wife was honored and women's position was acknowledged, especially in the performance of religious ceremonies. During later Vedic period, the witness about transitional development in the status of women, restricting her role in the social life except in the performance of religious sacrifices. Her social and political freedom was restricted. Sati became popular during later Vedic period, where widows either chose for themselves or were forced to jump into fire of their husbands. The patriarchal system became rigid. Women were denied to study Vedic scriptures. Then, medieval period. The position of women in the society further deteriorated, that means become worse during the medieval period. They suffered from many social evils such as sati, child marriages, female infanticide, and slavery. Normally, monogamy was in practice, but among the rich, polygamy was prevalent. Sati was in practice, particularly among the royal and upper strata of the society. Widow remarriage was rare. The Devdasi system was in practice in some parts of India. Among the Rajputs of Rajasthan, the Jaugar was practiced. The condition of widow became miserable during medieval period. But we don't ignore the fact that the Mughal ruler Akbar attempted to abolish sati. In fact, the very little attention was paid to female education. Jagar refers to the practice of collective voluntary immolation by wives and daughters of defeated Rajput warriors in order to avoid capture and dishonor. In spite of general determination, we can find some exceptions. Razia Sultana, Queen Durgavati, Chand Bibi, Nur Jahan, and Jahanara Jijabai and Mirabai. During medieval times, women's education was not completely ignored, though no regular separate school seems to be existed. Female education was informal. Girls usually had their lessons from their parents in their childhood. The rich appointed tutors to teach their daughters at home. The daughters of Rajputs, chief and zamindars studied literature and philosophy. Then, the British period. For centuries, women in India had subordinated. What is subordinated? They are helping to men and socially oppressed. The major effect of national awakening in the 19th century was seen in the field of social reform. The enlightened person increasingly revolted against rigid social evils and outdated customs. Numerous individuals, reform societies, and religious organizations worked hard to spread education among women, to encourage widow remarriage, to improve the living condition of widows, to prevent marriage for young children, to enforce monogamy. What is monogamy? Having only one wife or one husband, and to enable middle class women to take up professional or public employment. In the beginning, of 19th century, female literacy was extremely low when compared to rural literacy. The Christian missionaries were the first to set up the Calcutta Female Juvenile Society in the year 1819. The Bethune School was founded in the year 1849 by J.E.D. Bethune, who was the President of Council of Education in Calcutta. Charles Wood's dispatch on education in 1854 laid a great stress on the need for female education. Indian Education Commission, that is Hunter of 1882, recommended to start primary schools for girls and teacher training institution and suggested special scholarship and prizes for girls. In the year 1880s, Indian women began to enter universities. They were also trying to become doctors and teachers. They began to write books and magazines. In 1914, the Women's Medical Service did a lot of work in training midwives. In the year 1890s, D.K. Kaur established a number of female schools in Pune. Professor D.K. Kaur, Pandita Ramabai made a sincere effort to emancipate women through education was really remarkable. The Indian Women University was started by Professor D.K. Kaur in the year 1916. It was an outstanding institution imparting education to women. In the same year, Lady Hardinge Medical College was started in Delhi. Students, next we are going to say major social evils. Children, what are the major social evils which was practiced in our society earlier? First one is female infanticide. That is, when the female baby was born, it was killed by the parents itself. So it's called female infanticide. And female foeticide. So it is another social evils practiced by the ancient people. And third one is child marriage. Fourth one is sati. Fifth one is devadasi system. So these are the points only called social evils. First we are going to learn about female infanticide. Female infanticide was another inhuman practice affecting the 19th century Indian society. It was particularly in vogue in Rajputana, especially it was practiced in Rajputana, Punjab, northwestern provinces. It was mainly to avoid economic burden. Factors such as family pride, the fear of not finding a suitable match for the girl child were some of the major reasons responsible for this practice. Therefore, immediately after birth, the female infants were being killed. The company administration in India took steps to ban this practice by passing the Bengal Regulatory Act, that is 21 of 1795, the Regulating Act of 1802 and the Female Infanticide Act of 1870. Then, female foeticide. Children, what is female foeticide? It is also inhuman practice which cuts across a caste, creed, class and regional boundaries. Whether it is female infanticide or female foeticide, the prime motive remains the same. In order to ban the female foeticide and sex determination, the central government passed various acts. Then come to child marriage. Child marriage. The practice of child marriage was another social disgrace for the women. Here, Akbar, what he did to abolish child marriage? He prohibited child marriage and made it obligatory for the parents to obtain the approval of both bride and bridegroom before the marriage. He prescribed 14 years as the age of consent for girls and 16 for boys. In the year 1846, the maximum marriageable age for the girls only 10 years. The Native Marriage Act was passed in the 1872. It fixed the minimum marriageable age for girls at 14 and boys at 18. In the year 1930, the Central Legislative Assembly passed Roy Sahib Harbila's Sarda Child Marriage Bill, fixing the minimum marriageable age for boys at age 18 and 14 for girls. It was later attended to 18 for girls and 21 for boys according to Hindu Marriage Act, which passed in the year 1995. Then, Sati. Sati was social evil that prevailed in Indian society, especially among the Rajputs. Earlier, it was a voluntary act, but later, by the relatives, forced the widow to sit on the funeral fire. The Italian traveler Niccolo Conti, who visited Vijayanagar about the year AD 1420, he notes that the inhabitants of this region marry as many wives as they please, who are burnt with their dead husbands. In the early years of 19th century, Sati was in practice in various parts of the Bengal, Western India, and Southern India. In the year 1811, Jagan Mohan Roy, brother of Rajaram Mohan Roy, passed away and his wife was burnt along with him. Rajaram Mohan Roy was moved to extreme at the sight of it and took an oath that he would have cruel practice abolished by law. He carried on the continuous agitation through press and platform for the abolition of Sati. Rajaram Mohan Roy published his tracts in the year 1818 to 1820, making the point that the right of Sati was not enjoyed by the Shastras. This material was used by the Serampur missionaries in the shade of the generally accepted view that Sati was an integral part of Hindu religion. Orthodox Hindu opinion against the abolition was advocated by Radha Kanta Deb and Bhavani Charan Banerjee. When Lord William Bentinck took up the question of Sati, he found that the abolition had been recommended by the judges of criminal courts. He passed Regulation 17 on December 4, 1829, declaring the practice of Sati or burning or burying alive the widow of Hindus illegal and punishable by criminal courts. Similar legislative measures were enacted soon after in Bombay and Madras. Then, Devadasi system. The word Devadasi is a Sanskrit word or Devar Adiyal. In Tamil, it's a servant of. In Tamil, it's a Devar Adiyal, but in English, it's the meaning of servants of God. Dancing girl dedicated to the service of God in the temple. Devadasi system was a social evil. There was also tradition of dedicating one daughter to temple. In addition to taking care of the temple, they learnt and practiced Bharatanatyam and other classical traditional Indian arts. Later on, they were ill-treated and humiliated. The Devadasi lost their dignity, sense of pride, self-respect, and honor. Dr. Muthulakshmi Ammaya, who was the first woman doctor in India, dedicated herself for the case of abolishing the cruel practice of Devadasi system from Tamil Nadu. Appreciating her role in agitation against Devdas system, she was nominated to the Tamil Nadu Legislative Council in the year 1929. Periyar E.V. Ramasamy was instrumental in passing the Devadasi abolition bill. Dr. Muthulakshmi Ammayar proposed the bill to the Madras Legislative Council in the year 1930. Next, Moovalu Ramamurdam was another woman who fought for the emancipation of Devadasi with the continuous normal support rendered by Rajaji, Periyar and Thiruvika. She raised slogans against this cruel practice. As a result, the government passed the Devadasi Abolition Act. Here in Madras, Devadasi Act was a law that was enacted on 19th October 1947. The law was passed in the Madras Presidency and gave Devadasis the legal right to marry and made it illegal to dedicated girls to Indian temples. Then, role of social reformers. From the second half of 19th century, a number of social reformers and social reform movements sought to promote the upliftment of women by giving them education, raising their marriageable age, and taking care of widows, as well as to remove rigidity of caste and raise a suppressed class to the status of equality. The reformers who led the movements were the forerunners of modern India. Next, Rajaram Mohan Roy. So here, some of the social reformers also we can mention here. Rajaram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Kandakuri Veerasalingam, M.G. Ranade and B.M. Malabari, Gopalakrishna Kogale, Periyar E.V.R. and some other women reformers also. Women reformers are especially Dr. Dharmambal and Muthulakshmi Reddy, Rukmani Boy and Tarabai Shinde. So these are the main reformers, women reformers who took part for the upliftment of women. Now, today we are going to see about role of social reformers. From the second half of 19th century, a number of social reformers and social reform movements sought to promote the upliftment of women by giving them education, raising the marriageable age, and taking care of widows, as well as to remove the rigidity of caste, raise a suppressed class to status of equality. Reformers led the movements were the forerunners of modern India. So first one, Rajaram Mohan Roy. There were some enlightened Indians who supported the British attempt to reform the oppressive social order of India. The first was abolition of Sati by law on humanitarian grounds. Rajaram Mohan Roy, the pioneer of Indian social reforms. Pioneer means is a forerunner. Forerunner of Indian social reform movements was a casteless crusader of Sati after having seen this practice in the case of his own son-in-law. It's not son-in-law, it's a sister-in-law. He started his campaign against this inhuman evil practice. Influenced by the ruthless attack of the movement led by Rajaram Mohan Roy, the British government declared this act as a culpable homicide. Culpable homicide. That means it's a great punishable one. Rajaram Mohan Roy is most remarkable and remembered for helping Lord William Bentinck to declare the practice of Sati as a punishable offence in the year 1829. He also protested against the child marriage and female infanticide. He favored the remarriage of widows, female education, and women's right to property. Thus, the evil practice of Sati on any scale was wiped out. Then, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He carried on the movement for female education, widow remarriage, and abolition of polygamy in Bengal. What is polygamy? Having more husband and more wife. He submitted a petition to this effect on the Indian Legislative Council and led to the passing of the Hindu Widow Remarriage Act in the year 1856. His son Narayana Chandra set an example to others by marrying a widow of his choice. To promote female education, Vidyasagar founded several girls' schools in the district of Nadia, Midnapur, Hooghly, and Banjwan in Bengal. Next, Kandakuri Veerasalingam. Kandakuri Veerasalingam Pandula was earliest champion in South India's women's emancipation. He published a journal, Viveka Vardhani. He opened his first girls' school in the year 1874 and made widow remarriage and female education. The key points of his program was social reform. Then M.G. Ranade and B.M. Malabari. In Bombay Presidency, M.G. Ranade and B.M. Malabari carried on the movements for the upliftment of women. In the year 1869, Ranade joined the Widow Remarriage Association and encouraged widow remarriage and female education and opposed child marriage. In the year 1887, he started a national social conference which became a preeminent institution for social reform. In the year 1884, B.M. Malabari, a journalist, started a movement for the abolition of child marriage. He published pamphlets on this subject and appealed to the government to take action. Next, Gopalakrishna Gokhale. In the year 1905, Gopalakrishna Gokhale started the Servants of Indian Society, which took up such social reform measures as a primary education, female education, and depressed classes upliftment. The spread of female education further led to the participation of women in the freedom struggle. Then, Periyar E.V.R. Periyar E.V.R. was one of the greatest social reformer of Tamil Nadu. He advocated women education, widow remarriage, and intercaste marriages, and opposed child marriages. Then, we are going to see women's reformers. Most of the reform movements like Brahma Samaj, which passed in the year 1828, Prarthan Samaj passed in the year 1867, and Arya Samaj passed in the year 1875, were led by male reformers who set the limit of freedom and development of women. Women reformers like Pandita Ramabai, Rukmani Bai, and Tarabai Shinde tried to extinct further. In the year 1889, Pandita Ramabai opened Sharda Sadan, that is, Home of Learning, for Hindu widows in Bombay. It was later shifted to Pune. Her greatest legacy was her effort, the first in India to educate widows. Theosophical Society was established at Chennai, and Mrs. Annie Besant, who came from Europe, and joined it. It also developed general social reform program. Then Dr. S. Dharmampal was another reformer who was very much influenced by ideas of Periyar. She showed great interest in implementing widow remarriage and women education. Among Moovulu Ramamurtha Ammayar raised her voice against the Devadasi system along with Dr. Muthulakshmi Ammayar. In her memory, the government of Tamil Nadu has instituted the Moovulu Ramamurtha Ammal Ninaivu Marriage Assistance Scheme, a social welfare scheme to provide financial help assistance to poor women, as poverty was the root cause for all these evils. Thus, women reformers also contributed a lot for winning their own rights. Leading women realized the need of forming their own association in order to safeguard their interests. As a result, three major national women organizations, Women's India Association, National Council of Women in India, and the All India Women's Conference were founded. Women in the freedom movement. In the early anti-colonial struggle, anti-colonial means the people of India who fought for India's freedom against British rule. So it's called anti-colonial struggle. Women in the freedom movement. In the early anti-colonial struggle, that is, anti means fighting the British rule, because they made the country as a slave. Women in the freedom movement. In the early anti-colonial struggle, that is, opposing the British rule, women played a major role in various capacities. Belu Nachiar of Sivaganga fought violently against the British and restored her role in Sivaganga. Begum Hasrat Mahal, Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi, led an armed revolt of 1857 against the British. In the freedom struggle, thousands of women came out of their homes, boycotted foreign goods, that is, they neglected using foreign goods, marched in procession, defied laws, received lathi charges, and courted jails. Their participation in the struggle added a new dimension of mass character. Impact of reform movements. Significant advances were made in the field of emancipation of women. It created a national awakening among the masses. It created the feeling of sacrifice, service, and rationalism. The practice of sati and infanticide were made illegal. It permitted widow remarriage. Women in the independent India. Women in India now participate in all activities such as education, politics, medical culture, service sector, science and technology. The Constitution of India guarantees Article 14, equal opportunity and equal pay for equal work. The national policy for empowerment of women was passed under the National Policy on Education in the year 1986. New program was launched called Mahila Samakkaya. Its main focus was on empower of women. Reservation of 33% to women envisaged on improvement in the social political status of women. The National Commission for Women was set up January 1992. Its main function is to review women related legislation and intervene in specific individual complaints of atrocities and denial of rights. Then, the difference between legislation and provisions. Bengal Regulation of 21-1804. Here provision, female infanticide was declared illegal. Regulation of 17 passed in the year 1829, but in the provision, practice of sati was declared illegal. Hindus Widows Remarriage Act was passed in the year 1856. On the provision, it permitted widow remarriage. The Native Marriage Act was passed in the year 1872. On the provision, the child marriage was prohibited. The Sharda Act passed in the year 1930. On the provision, the age of marriage was raised for boys and girls. The last, Devdasi Abolition Act was passed in the year 1949. on the provision that Devada system was abolished. Okay, children. Thank you. God bless you. Have a nice day.